Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kerry Amos, and just going into Unit 4, covering the WBS. I just wanted to go ahead and give you my take on the this week's discussion video post. First thing we're covering was the WBS, and the question posed was, why is the WBS such an integral aspect of the overall project? My thing with my take on the WBS being such an integral part is that the WBS was is very important as it's basically it's an outline of the project itself, the scope. It's an outline of the scope. And what it does is it's a visual tool for defining the deliverables that are necessary, clarifies the scope and finds out additional scope if there is additional scope to be discovered. It breaks down the project into smaller subgroups, so it's easier to be managed and therefore not overlooking some of the integral things that that will help the project go along better and be more successful. And it also keeps the team focused. By that, it's just, if you're not all over the place, if everybody's working on everything the entire time, then you lose focus on the finite focus on what you could be breaking down in the structure, as well as moving on to other parts of it. So that was the first question that was proposed. Next was, when is the WS modified and how does change impact the WBS? With that, when does it change? Who's authorized to make those modifications to the WBS? From what I discovered and what I found was that changes to the WBS are basically same thing as when you're changing the scope, because the WBS is based off of said scope, or if you make changes in the WBS, it will ultimately affect the scope. So changes to that will basically, it has to come through can only be made by the project manager. I'm sorry, the key stakeholders and the project sponsor is what I took away from that. Some of the things with that is that the modifications can only be made in the project scope itself. When there is a change in the project scope, it can only be authorized, like I said, by the project stakeholder and the project sponsor. If you change something during this, it can ultimately affect the entire project itself. So that's whether it's costs, the different resources, possibly make the entire project fail. So if you can't just decide to make a change in the WBS without going through the proper change modifications and having it approved by the proper personnel. Next was, what are the key components to the WBS? Now with that, quite a few components to the WBS. It's like for quality, I say this: identification of the responsible departments or individuals for the deliverables that you've set forth. The schedule, and that's the start and end date to the schedule. You have your required resources, estimated costs of the project, and in that you want to have the breakdown of not just the overall project, but each piece within that as well. Your contract details, requirements, and the milestones that you need to hit or to reach during during your project completion. Protocol for quality control, requirements and standards, and then also any technical information and the resources that will be needed to accomplish your task. Next was, how do you determine your high level task in the WBS? The high level tasks in WBS ensure that before you take a deep dive and going into trying to find out and get into the nitty gritty or getting into the finite details of it, you need to have this broad overarching scope of what exactly it is what we're doing. And that's what we're looking at when we're talking about the high level tasks. What those should basically come directly from the project statement. They should be determined and described out in the project statement. You take that and therefore transfer it over to get your high level WBS. And it should highlight the necessary phases of the project and create your deliverables, divide those deliverables into manageable tasks, assign every section, and ensure each owner is empowered to deliver. That's very important to make sure that everybody has an opportunity in there to focus on what they need to focus on and able to do it. Don't just give someone a task and they can't get it done. Then you want to match the goals and deliverables inside the project scope. Why are past projects helpful in creating a WBS? It's basically historical data. You don't want to recreate the wheel every time you do something. You don't take, a project and just say, okay, this is our map. This is what we go through. It's just you have an example of what one looks like that has been successful. That's very important. Choose one that has been successful. Take that, see if there's any things that you could use out of it to modify your project itself, your WBS itself, to make sure that it's comprehensive. That's really the biggest takeaway from it. And then, like I said, just use it as a baseline as you're getting started on the next. Uh, Discuss the specifics of the WBS in our project. Let's say for SEI, we really have we're dealing with the tech portion of it, but it's a construction company trying to have a lot of deliverables, and we're fixing a myriad of different things. So what we're looking at is we're going to cover the IT and systems onboarding, payroll and accounting and expenses, procurement procedures, status reporting, bidding and pricing of materials, and then also remote access, which was key. So those are the things that I got out of this. Hopefully you guys got something out of this and enjoyed it. Hope ready to view some of you all videos. Thank you so much and have a great day. Good evening.